Hey everyone, I'm Charlie Smith, your host of Savannah Music Chit Chat. If you have not subscribed to YouTube, please do so and follow us on Rumble. Today we will be covering country, and sitting beside me right now is a country boy himself. Welcome, Levi Moore. What's happening,
Thank you for having me. I truly appreciate it.
Man.
Yes, sir.
Man, this is awesome, dude. So tell me a little bit about yourself, man. What's going on with you?
Well, just trying to play full time. I mean, I do play full time down here. Of course, this time of year is it backs off a little bit, which is nice. Gives a chance for recording or songwriting or just to recharge a bit. A little bit of downtime, I get a little uneasy sometimes, feeling like I'm not don't have anything to do, you know, or I got a night off or 2 nights in a row off, and don't know what to do with myself. But
well, man, I tell you what. When did you start playing music, man?
I was a little bit late getting started, really. I always had a love for music, but that really sort of manifested itself when I was a kid through just listening to a lot of different types of music and being able to remember lyrics and words, and I could hear a couple of lyrics and know who the artist was, and occasionally what album it came from, something like that. My folks were great music lovers, and my dad was one of his great heroes was Gordon Lightfoot, and we grew up horseback and ranching cattle and training horses and all those sorts of things
awesome,
on thousands of acres. Musically, it was really wasn't much country music, and mostly the singer-songwriters, and Bob Dylan, Gordon Lightfoot, Jim Croce, Dan Fogelberg, you know, James Taylor, the greats. I was a pretty studious kid. I enjoyed school. I enjoyed reading and took my scholastics seriously. But also my dad, during high school in particular, he and I had he and I had taken too much credit, but he had a full-time horse training operation, and he and I had a great trust factor between the two of us, and it tended to settle the young horses down. And then, of course, I got to clean out stalls and feed and hay, and then all the less glorious parts of it.
Yes.
But that took up another big chunk of time. But then when I wasn't working with horses or school, my third great love was football. And
you're a big boy. I could see that, man.
Well, and it paid off eventually. I was able to go to Missouri State University on a football scholarship.
Good job, man.
But I think that was really my folks' reasoning. I just had so much going on. Like I'd get up, get a morning run in or workout, because I was gifted with being terribly slow, and so if I knew if I wanted to make it out of small town Missouri football and to have a chance to go play at a bigger school, I mean Missouri State's Division I AA. If I wanted that, I needed to put in some extra work to get faster.
Were you aware of the fact of what genre that you were going to at that point?
No, sir. I don't know what kind of genre it's going to be. Could be just folk, you know, or something where I'll just try to write and sing what I can.
Speaking of, not meaning to cut you off, but speaking of your upbringing, I heard something along the lines of the work that you used to do.
After
a little bit.
Well, my degree is in animal science.
That's awesome.
It was a lot of fun. I graduated a little bit early from college, and so I still had a semester of eligibility left, and so I had to be enrolled. So I took a few other classes that moved me just a little bit closer. The emphasis of my degree is animal science, emphasizing beef production. I still need trig, physics, and organic chemistry to complete that, but those are the 3 hardest things on campus, so I didn't get around to it. I did try to take trig that last semester and epically failed. Only class I ever failed, and I did it in style. but after college, I went and worked a couple cattle ranches for a while, and I was lucky enough to pick up a handful of little gigs at a little local bar and then a little truck stop place had a diner in there, and they let me come in and play for a couple bucks a night and whatever I could do in tips, and it was probably more generosity on their part than anything that I certainly deserved. but it was enough that I wanted to start playing. And my roommate at the time, he was working offshore in the oil fields, and he worked all over the world on some of the big, real high pressure wells. It's why every time he'd come home, it was always we had a blast. But he'd go get him. He'd pick up a motorcycle one time, and then another time went and bought a dozer one time, and another time he'd put a new lift kit on his truck or something. And I said, man, you know, I'm training a couple of horses, working the cattle ranches, building fence, and scraping by. And so I got to get in on this. What
now you on it old?
Yeah, what is happening?
Wow.
Through a fortuitous set of circumstances, I was able to land an interview with Great White Pressure Control down in Searcy, Arkansas. And I drove down there, had an interview with them. They were satisfied that I could start out just as helping out around. And I think from the time I met with them to the time I moved and loaded my truck and moved to Arkansas was about 10 days. I was ready to go.
This is the way I gather it. Let's take cattle ranching, horse raising, school for animals, oil rigging. I think your path was pretty much, well, the country was pretty much well formed out before you even knew it.
It seems that way. Dabbled in a little bit of everything. The time in the oil field is what probably really solidified my music. Like I said, I'd played a few gigs, and I was in many tailgates and stuff like that, and I knew that I enjoyed playing. But when I got to the oil field, that schedule was just hour, 2 hours, hour and a half, either way, 12 hours a day on location, plus drive time. I wasn't prepared for that kind of schedule. It was just long days, hot days, cold days. I was just exhausted. So I went for about probably 6 or 8 months without picking up my guitar at all.
Wow.
I was just overwhelmed with work and trying to play catch up. Didn't know what I was doing. I was just green as I could be. Had no idea what was happening. And I finally I was out one night and I ran into some folks who started talking about music. And I said, well, yeah, I play a little bit. And he said, well, we're having this little songwriter night at this bar down the road. Why don't you come do it on Monday nights? Why don't you come down there? I said, well, next time I have a Monday off, I will. And it happened to be within a week or two. And so I grabbed my guitar and I went down there and started playing. And that sort of, all of a sudden, it clicked and it started coming back. And I'd get home from work between 8 and 8:30. Get cleaned up real fast and haul buggy to Little Rock, grab my guitar, go in there, play 2 songs, and I'd just hang out until 12:30, listen to people play, just talk, and it was such a breath of fresh air for me, and it became my social interaction, because other than that I was at work all the time,
yeah.
and because I mean working with guys that much and doing that kind of labor and stuff, you sort of become family anyways. We had a big time working, but still, get to leave that behind and the oil and grease and that world behind and pick up the guitar and go down there and hang out with other musicians and artists and writers and the creative people that I met there was just so fulfilling.
And this evolved to what you're doing now. You know, I heard that you happen to know that man, Jacob Evans.
Yes, sir.
What's up, Jacob? Yeah, man, he was on the show. He's a wonderful songwriter, man. Tell me a little bit about Tom Cooler and the songwriter series that you've had a chance to participate with.
I was so fortunate. It's been a couple of years ago now. I ran into Mr. Tom, and he just as a songwriter, he offered me the opportunity to come and play. Where was it? The Sentient Being, I think, was the first one I did.
Sentient Being, yeah.
And did that, and that was a couple of years ago. Just great turnout. It's always fun there's so many talented musicians there, and being able to work with Tom and just pick his brain on things and
yeah, he's a good fellow.
Oh, absolutely. And then a couple of years ago was it a couple of years, 2 years ago? The last few years has been a blur for everybody, I think.
Yeah, most definitely.
So sometime within the last period of craziness, was able to play at Coach's Corner and do another round with them, and I was up there with Brady Adams and Jason Bible.
Oh, Jason Bible. Yep, he was on the show back in 2015 or 16. Jason's a good fellow, man.
Oh man.
Let me ask you this here. What about recording? Have you ever done any recording in Nashville or?
Done a handful of things. Back in my early beginnings, wasn't too far removed from the apartment racket at the time. I was able to go up there and record just a couple of demo tracks that I still have squirreled away, and I don't break them out very often because it's not great to listen to, but it was a good experience.
You're a perfectionist like myself, you know?
I try to be, and just so much about, to me, is wanting to capture the right emotion and the right feeling in songs, and whether it's fun or sad or whatever the emotion is intended to be, I want to capture it accurately. And so many times, as we talked about earlier, is I listen to something and I like it at the time, then I come back to it and I feel like I missed something.
So speaking on collaborating with other musicians, I hear that you and Jacob are doing a little work together right now.
Yes, and it's been a blast working with Jacob. He's such a talented musician and just all around artist. We have just a great time. We spend as much time talking and laughing about stuff as we do trying to get anything recorded. And that story started quite some time ago, because I met Jacob down on River Street at Lizzie's Tequila Bar. On the far end. We had both been double booked there accidentally. You know, things happen from time to time. And we both showed up. I'd gotten there just a hair bit earlier, and so I was partially set up. But Jacob came in, and we sort of struck up a conversation and started talking about working together in some capacity then. He happened to just reach out to me and say, "Hey, man, you interested in doing recording something?" I said, "Well, we've been talking about it for 4 or 5 years now.
Let's do it.
Now's as good time as any."
Right on. And I'm going to tell you, me first, I'm a fan already. I'm ready to hear what you guys collaborate, what it sounds like, and I'm excited about it, man. Let me ask you a personal question, man.
Yes,
Will you do me a favor?
Certainly.
Would you play a little song for me as we go out today?
Sure.
That is awesome.
The song is called I Wish I Had a Hometown. I wrote it with Miss Stephanie Ryan and Taylor Marie Wagner. This kind of goes along just having moved a lot as a kid and grew up in small towns and ranching communities, and same 3 numbers by the front door, the same old chair on the front porch, a red bicycle and a baseball cap. I'd be alright with having that. I wish I had a few old friends to reminisce on where life began, where everybody waves and knows your name. The whole town shows up for a football game. Every stoplight, every street sign reminds me. Well, I wish I had a hometown, low back roads to drive down, memories on every corner, crazy things I never do now. The parking lot there was a hayfield, where Friday nights were a big deal. An old town square I used to drive around. I wish I had a hometown. If I would have known back then how my life could have been, I'd have stood real steady on solid ground, 'cause roots run deeper when you settle down. Every stoplight, every street sign reminds me well, I wish I had a hometown, low back roads to drive down, memories on every corner, crazy things I never do now. A parking lot that was a hayfield, where Friday nights were a big deal. An old town square I used to drive around. I wish I had a hometown. I wish I had a hometown. Every stoplight, every street sign, well, I wish I had a hometown, low back roads to drive down, memories on every corner, crazy things I never do now. A parking lot that was a hayfield, where Friday nights were a big deal. An old town square I used to drive around. I wish I had a hometown. I wish I had a hometown.